I'm here tonight because I wholeheartedly support Supervisor Solbergs' courageous amendment to limit trapping. I'd also like to see trapping completely banned because it involves immense fear and suffering to innocent animals, all animals. Our county and our state are going in exactly the wrong direction. Instead of eliminating this barbaric practice, we're increasing the opportunities for a small number of trappers to kill animals this cruel manner. And in the name of recreational sport, disease control, constitutional right, and now just recently requiring trapping on any lands purchased through the stewardship funds, which following this, well, we just talked about the beautiful Sugar River, which again, unbeknown to the public, except for one word in the report, will also allow trapping. The biggest problem I see is the sneaky manner in which all of this was legalized. The public really doesn't have a clue that all this has happened, and that I find absolutely wrong and not in the spirit of the law. We have a right to be fully informed, and there has been too little investigation of this in the media, so the media also shares much of this blame. According to a subchapter in the Wisconsin statutes, it talks about a representative government of the American type is dependent upon an informed electorate. It's declared to be policy of the state that the public is entitled to the fullest and most complete information regarding the affairs of government. And also further, it says any action taken at a meeting of a governmental body held in violation of this subchapter is voidable. There's also an excellent quote from William T. Evu that I always like to use, from the founding editor and publisher of the Capital Times, which says it all. Let the people have the truth and the freedom to discuss it, and all will go well. So, bad laws are getting passed, and now with Act 168, they want to be able to trap 7 months of the year. Besides the actual cruelty inflicted to the animals and the public safety issue, this goes even further. We're guaranteeing a small minority to harm more animals on more county and state land, and this psychologically terrifies the rest of us. Will there be no safe place left for us to observe wild animals where we, as well as they, should feel safe? Supervisor Solberg's amendment is challenging this injustice in one of the only legal ways possible. I urge you to please support her amendment tonight. Thank you.
The vast majority of people who live in this state, who live in this county, do not trap. They do not hunt. These are public lands. I think we should have a right to have certain lands designated as no trapping. You've got non-target animals that are going to be caught in these traps, and this bothers us. I mean, this isn't like, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to trap raccoons, and I only get raccoons in these traps. That's not the reality. And this is an issue for me, it's an issue for a lot of people. So I see this more as a representation issue of the people who are here, many of them, who are against this trapping. We want to know, can we be represented in our public parks, because these are our taxes. So there are, I don't know what the percentage is, 2%, 5%, whatever it is, the trap are going to be represented quite well here. What thoughts?
Trappers claim that their trapping in Dane County parks protects the public and farm animals and companion animals from injury and disease caused by wildlife. So my question is, what evidence exists of harm to the public or to the public's animals that has come from animals in Dane County parks? Examples I'm aware of where animals cause a nuisance for people, like a skunk under the porch or geese in our community parks, are animal specific and therefore call for animal specific solutions. But the trapper's logic, as I understand it, appears to be that because some minks, raccoons, coyotes, etc. have been known to harm farm and companion animals, the trappers should therefore have permission to trap animals indiscriminately in Dane County parks. And I question why, if they could just elaborate more on that. To put the question to trappers in other words, how much injury and disease do you estimate is currently being prevented by your traps here in Dane County parks? Secondly, at the hearing last year on a similar issue that had to do with allowing traps in McCarthy Park, one of the trappers, or speaking in favor of trapping, people said that some people, trappers, rely on trapped animals for food. When one of the park commissioners asked for a follow-up about the prevalence of trapping for food, the trapper replied that he didn't have numbers with him, but would get back. 1 minute. So if any trappers here tonight are making a similar assertion, do you have the numbers now? How many people are relying on trapped animals for food here in Dane County? What animals are they eating?
Next, Mark Peters.
Yeah, I'd like to speak against this amendment. You know, I think that you know, there's a lot of people that speak out against trapping, but you know, they may be in a minority themselves. I'd like to read something here. This is from the state constitution, Article 1, Section 26. The people have the right to fish, hunt, trap, and take wild game subject only to reasonable restrictions. I don't think that we're talking about a reasonable restriction here, banning all trapping. I mean, you might even be able to ban the methods and the types of devices used, but a total ban on all trappings is not reasonable.
They have a fellow here named Mark Peters, who is district director for the Wisconsin Trappers Association, and they quote him. And one of the things that Mr. Peters says is that there are always a few people who violate the rules. Well, you know, right. He right there, he admits that there are people that are going to be out there trapping, that are going to be causing problems. And then Mr. Peters goes on to say that approved traps will not kill pets or injure children. Now, I really seriously doubt that, because just before I came here tonight, I put in a Google search of pets killed by traps, and about the top 5 responses came back with articles in regards to pets being killed by traps.
My dog was killed on October 17th of 2011 in a polar bear trap placed on private land accidentally. It was supposed to be on DNR land.
You know, rabies, mange, parvo, those, what, is there a relationship between high density numbers of those animals and transmission of disease?
Yes, absolutely. There is, and in general, those problems now are regulated to cities. Animals living inside cities. In rural populations, it's not. The threat to, I could tell you that domestic animals pose more of a threat to wildlife than wildlife could ever pose to domestic animals.
But you also mentioned, you've seen some examples of some, what you would call, I suppose, degradation because of trapping that's gone on in E-Way. Is that?
I guess I don't.
Could you explain a little bit more? You mentioned the E-Way and some of the indiscriminate species, I guess.
Sure.
I guess that's what I'm interested in.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you know, if you were out to trap for omnivore, you know, any fur bear that's an omnivore, you're setting yourself up right there to trap anywhere from about 12 to 15 different species of relatively the same size. So if you're setting out skunk traps, that means you're also setting out mink traps, weasel traps, possum traps, raccoon traps. They are not as indiscriminate as the Wisconsin Wildlife Federation led you to believe.
You mentioned that a crane, you have seen?
Yeah, I've seen a sandhill crane in a dog-proof trap and stuck by the bill. Luckily, that was at 4 Lakes Wildlife Center in Dane County.
I would move we consider someone.
Is there a second to that motion?
And you rejecting it, or?
No, he's just said considering it at this point, that it would come before us. Technically, it's not there yet. So let's get that in front of us.
Okay.
And then we can debate that, if that's appropriate. Okay. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. The motion is, okay. So there's one no on that. So now we're discussing sub 1. And Dan, you have
I would move that we disapprove or deny, whatever the proper term is, sub 1 to ordinance amendment 38.
I would second.
And there's a second by Thorson. So there's a motion to deny, to recommend denial, or to deny and move it out of here and up the line with that denial. Is that correct? Okay. Kyle?
Well, I'm going to oppose the motion to deny, and we heard speakers, one particular speaker talk about the Wisconsin Constitution and the phrase subject to reasonable restrictions, and I think this is a reasonable restriction. We're not banning all trapping in the county, and we're not even banning all trapping on county land. It seeks to ban it on particular county lands. And I understand Christine's concern about the checkerboard planning and management of the lands, but I think that some speakers made a very persuasive argument for me that what I would consider to be the majority of people in Dane County consider public lands and the uses. They don't know that what the rules are recently by the state, and I think from my neighbors and the people that I know, they oppose trapping. I think one of our speakers gave us some pretty persuasive arguments about trapping not being used for people to find food much anymore, and it's a different time. And I think, and I'm hearing another argument about whether the county board ought to be involved in this, but since I'm a member of that body, I don't agree with that argument. So I'm not going to support denial.
I'm not going to support denial either. This isn't the first time we've heard this issue. And the things that I've said publicly essentially are the reason why we've allowed trapping in Dane County at the level we have is partially because of the stewardship fund. And it is because of what the state has done. Stewardship is our lifeblood. The stewardship funding, along with our county tax dollars, is the lifeblood for the future growth of our county. And to me, that's the critical element that we have to look at. And what I found intriguing about this particular proposal is that it put the county board on record, they supported this, on record as saying that in fact stewardship and trapping are going to be inextricably linked until stewardship gets changed at the state level. And to me that was a particularly persuasive argument because it would allow us and it will allow the commission to continue to allocate lands, but it's just going to restrict them to those stewardship lands plus lands that have previously been held, to lands that have previously allowed trapping on in Dane County. But I think there's a broader issue, and that is I think it's easy for this commission to look at and say, yes, the professionals have to manage something, and we have to rely on the professionals to do so. But the public doesn't see that. The public doesn't understand that. And I think what the public sees and what the public understands is extremely critical. Dane County used to be a rural county. It used to be an area where trapping could occur and not really affect anybody or any individual. That's not the case any longer. We're a much larger county. We're an urban county in many ways. We still have some wonderful rural areas and we want to maintain them. But we are an urban county. We have over 2 million visitors a year to Dane County and to our Dane County parks. And those 2 million people, I think their perception of trapping is considerably different. We may be the insiders. We may think, well, there are these certain kinds of traps that work and so on. But the average citizen doesn't know that. And I think we've also heard some testimony which I hadn't really thought about before, which are in fact traps are not discriminated. They cannot discriminate between one creature of a certain size and another creature of a certain size, one of which may be a nuisance creature, another one which may be something else. And I use those in quotes. But in any event, the traps do not have that level of discriminatory power. And so to me, when the average citizen hears that and they hear that we're going to continue to allow trapping in that form, I think it really causes more of a sort of a public concern and consternation that I think is has the potential of affecting our parks. This is a compromise. There are many anti-trapping folks that would prefer to have it banned altogether. There are others who would prefer to allow trapping even more significantly than it is now. I see this as a compromise and as a way to move forward and to allow us to manage our lands maybe with some restrictions that we wouldn't necessarily like to have. And it is true that a legislative body is going to be imposing some of those restrictions. But I think we have to understand the political climate in which we're dealing here, and that sometimes compromise is necessary in order to allow us to continue to buy the land and to be able to have the wonderful county that we have, and to allow our citizens, most importantly, to enjoy our parks without the fear, whether it's real or not, that there's some trap or something else that's going to impact their enjoyment of the park, or their animals, or their children.
I'm here tonight because I wholeheartedly support Supervisor Solbergs' courageous amendment to limit trapping. I'd also like to see trapping completely banned because it involves immense fear and suffering to innocent animals, all animals. Our county and our state are going in exactly the wrong direction. Instead of eliminating this barbaric practice, we're increasing the opportunities for a small number of trappers to kill animals this cruel manner. And in the name of recreational, the truth and the freedom to discuss it, and all will go well. So, bad laws are getting passed, and now with Act 168, they want to be able to trap 7 months of the year. Besides the actual cruelty inflicted to the animals and the public safety issue, this goes even further. We're guaranteeing a small minority to harm more animals on more county and state land, and this psychologically terrifies the rest of us. Will there be no safe place left for us to observe wild animals where we, as well as they, should feel safe? Supervisor Solberg's amendment is challenging this injustice in one of the only board, disease control, constitutional right, and now just recently requiring trapping on any lands purchased through the stewardship fund. Which following this, well, we just talked about the beautiful Sugar River, which again, unbeknown to the public, except for one word in the report, will also allow trapping. The biggest problem I see is the sneaky manner in which all of this was legalized. The public really doesn't have a clue that all this has happened, and that I find absolutely wrong and not in the spirit of the law. We have a right to be fully informed, and there has been too little investigation of this in the media, so the media also shares much of this blame. According to a subchapter in the Wisconsin statutes, it talks about a representative government of the American type is dependent upon an informed electorate. It's declared to be policy of the state that the public is entitled to the fullest and most complete information regarding the affairs of government. And also further, it says any action taken at a meeting of a governmental body held in violation of this subchapter is voidable. There's also an excellent quote from William T. Evu that I always like to use, from the founding editor and publisher of the Capital Times, which says it all. Let the people have only legal ways possible. I urge you to please support her amendment tonight. Thank you.
The vast majority of people who live in this state, who live in this county, do not trap. They do not hunt. These are public lands. I think we should have a right to have certain lands designated as no trapping. You've got non-target animals that are going to be caught in these traps, and this bothers us. I mean, this isn't like, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to trap raccoons, and I only get raccoons in these traps. That's not the reality. And this is an issue for me, it's an issue for a lot of people. So I see this more as a representation issue of the people who are here